Welcome back to another episode of Robert Reads. We are going to continue with the 4th edition Player's Handbook, page 60. We are finally starting on the classes themselves. We're going to read about the Cleric. Let's jump into it. Have courage, my friends. Palor favors us today. Class traits. Role, leader. You lead by shielding allies with your prayers, healing, and using powers that improve your allies' attacks. Power source, divine. You've been invested with an authority to wield divine power on behalf of a deity, faith, or philosophy. Key ability. Excuse me. Key abilities. Wisdom, strength, and charisma. Armor proficiencies. Cloth, hide, leather, and chainmail. So it seems like they didn't break them into 5th edition's light, medium, and heavy armor categories, and instead listed them individually. They've also included cloth as an option for armor. Weapon proficiencies. Simple melee, simple ranged, so you just get simpler weapons. Implement, holy symbol, and bonus to defense, you get a +2 will save, will defense bonus from being a cleric. Hit points at first level, you start with 12 plus your constitution score. This is what we were saying before about the hit points being related to your constitution score, not the modifier. So you get way more hit points at first level. 12 plus constitution score. Hit points per level gained is a 5, and healing surges per day is 7 plus your constitution modifier. So they have no concept of hit dice at all in 4th edition. They didn't tie your hit points to a dice roll in any way. And there was no variance in it because you're not rolling for it. Every cleric at a certain level with the same constitution score as another cleric would have exactly the same hit points. Interesting. Especially interesting because hit points per level for a cleric being 5 means that they are getting... and also it's 5, not your constitution score. Oh, that's garbage. So you don't have... So wait, so you don't have very many hit points. Interesting. So as a cleric, or as any class I imagine, you add your entire constitution score at first level rather than the modifier, but then you do not add anything more throughout your entire career. So you start off with way more hit points than you do at first level in D&D 5e, but you end off with way fewer hit points than you would in 5e. Which is actually the way that I think it should be. So I actually prefer the 4th edition way of doing it. Because I do think both of those things are a problem in 5e. In 5e, it's a problem that you start off with so few hit points, and it's also a problem that you end up with so many hit points. It is a pain in the ass to balance an encounter to make it feel like it's an interesting threat to high-level parties. You've seen it in the Adventures in Azerim stuff. They've all got like 100 hit points now. And outside of hitting them with a Banshee that can hit them down to 0 hit points regardless of what they had, outside of that, it's really difficult to be like, you took 60 points of damage, and they're like, yeah, that's half of my hit points, but I'm still fine for a while. So I think having fewer hit points as you go, fewer hit points added on, but starting with more is actually the better way to do it. If you were to assign this to a dice, then 5 is the average of a d8, which is what clerics do get. So they kept clerics getting about the same hit points. It's just that they've given them more than twice the amount at first level. Like, why 12? Where did that... It feels arbitrary. Where did that come from? And why do clerics get 7 healing surges a day plus their constitution modifier? That's a lot of healing. What do they heal with the healing surge? It's like... Because it's not their hit dice anymore, is it? Does it say like what the healing surge is? Like how much the healing surge is? How much is the healing surge? I'm so used to 5th edition's table that I'm expecting to see the table and it's just not there. And I'm like, oh shit, I need the summary table. I can't remember what page the healing surges stuff was. 293? Yeah, 293. Healing Surge. When you spend a healing surge, you regain 1/4 of your maximum hit points rounded down. When you spend a healing surge, you regain 1/4 of your maximum hit points. So that's impressive. So you start with 7 healing surges plus your constitution modifier. So every time you... So if you've even got just a +1 constitution modifier, you get 3 times your hit points per day. Whatever your max hit points is, you get to heal 1/4 of it every... That's a hell of a lot of healing. What was the Dragonborn thing? Your healing surge value is equal to 1/4 of your maximum hit points plus your constitution modifier. Your healing surge value. Oh, so the Draconic Heritage thing isn't actually that powerful. Draconic Heritage says your healing surge value is equal to 1/4 of your maximum hit points plus your con mod. And your healing surge value, if you're not a Draconic, is just your hit point maximum. Sorry, 1/4 of your hit point maximum. So all you're getting is your healing surges per day number of your constitution modifier. So if you're Dragonborn and you've got 8 healing surges a day, then each time you use it, you're getting your constitution modifier more than anybody else would. Which is probably like an extra 2 or 3 hit points, right? That's not a very powerful feature. But I suppose when you're bloodied, you gain extra racial bonuses. And your dragon breath. Those are both relatively strong. Yeah, I don't know. When you level 1 or 2, your constitution is important, but the higher you get, the less important it is, yeah. That's why friends start characters at level 2, because they're twice as likely to survive. Yeah, in 5th edition? Yeah, for sure. In my games, you start at, you maximize your hit points at both level 1 and level 2. Just to keep you from dying. And I know a lot of people who give you your level 2 hit points at level 1, and then you just don't gain any hit points at level 2. 11 would have been too little, 13 would have been outrageous, it had to be 12. By how much do the healing surges go up each level? Your healing surges, your number of them. You don't increase your healing surges at all, unless you increase your constitution modifier. You can level all the way up to level 20 and have the same number of healing surges all the time. But the value of them is 1/4 of your maximum hit points, which each level goes up by 5 for a cleric. So you'd go up by 1. You'd heal for an extra 1 or 2. Cleric needs to spend healing surges to heal others as well. 8 or so isn't that much. Oh, I see. Interesting. So, interesting that your hit points are generated completely differently in 4E. That's where I got distracted. Trained skills. So, as a cleric, you are trained in religion, and then from the class list below, you can choose 3 more. Arcana, diplomacy, heal, history, insight, and religion. What the fuck? Why would they include religion if you are trained in religion already? Kind of want to skip forward to the other classes to see if they've done that with all the others now as well. Come on. Somebody, give me another class. Paladin. Trained skill, religion, and they've included religion. What the fuck? Ranger, trained skill, dungeoneering or nature, and then you get to pick dungeoneering or nature. Which makes sense because you're picking an option from one of them and you are trained in the other. But like, what? What? Rogue, trained skill, stealth and thievery. And then you can pick from stealth and thievery. Why are they including the options that you're already trained in? Class skills. Oh, it might be because there might be some other things in the game that refer to your class skills. And it might be like a feature that's like, if you are doing a skill that is on your class skills list, blah, blah, blah. And so they want to make sure that it's included in the class list, even if you automatically have it. I know both my religion and yours. 4E editing, don't ask. 4E was Wizards trying to make D&D run like an MMORPG, yeah. Could be relevant for multiclassing. Yeah, it might be multiclassing stuffs. I don't know. I think it makes sense if you think about it. Like, if you think about it as this is the list of class skills, you are automatically trained in this one off of the list, and then you can pick some of the others. It's just a bit weird way to write it, I guess. And then your build options, you can be a battle cleric or a devoted cleric, or you can ignore those build options. Class features, channel divinity, healer's law, and healing word, and ritual casting. Clerics are battle leaders who are invested with the divine power. They blast foes with magical prayers, bolster and heal companions, and lead the way to victory with a mace in one hand and a holy symbol in the other. Clerics run the gamut from humble servants of the common folk to ruthless enforcers of evil gods. As a cleric, the deity you choose to revere goes a long way towards defining you, or at least how other people in the world see you. You could be a platinum-garbed envoy of Bahamut, seeking justice throughout the land, a shadowy follower of Sehanine with a roguish streak, a burly disciple of Kord who believes in virtue of strength is sufficient for all challenges, or a dwarf cleric of Moradin bringing honour to the denizens of your mountain home. Will you protect what is sacred to your god, quest for legendary holy artifacts, pursue a life of evangelical adventuring, or attempt all these deeds and more? Creating a cleric. The cleric has two basic builds to start, the battle cleric and the devoted cleric. Clerics rely on strength for their melee attacks and wisdom for their healing and non-melee prayers. Charisma also aids their abilities. Battle cleric. If you choose to concentrate on melee, you find a good assortment of strikes to your liking. To achieve this build, make strength your primary score, make wisdom your secondary score, and assign charisma as your tertiary score. Make sure to concentrate on powers that work with melee attacks, since these play to your key ability scores. Suggested feat, weapon focus. Suggested skills, diplomacy, heal, insight, and religion. Suggested at-will powers, righteous brand, priest's shield. Suggested encounter power, wrathful thunder. Suggested daily power, avenging flame. I like these, that it's like, here's a certain type of cleric that you might want to play, and these are the things you can choose to make that cleric if you want, but they're just suggestions, you don't have to take them. Devoted cleric. With this build, you can choose to stand back and concentrate your abilities on keeping your fellow adventurers healthy and optimized. To this end, choose powers that grant bonuses and healing, such as Divine Glow and Beacon of Hope. Assign your highest ability score to Wisdom, with Charisma secondary and Strength tertiary. Make sure to concentrate on powers that use Wisdom for attacks, since this is your highest ability score. Suggested feat, Channel Divinity feat. Suggested skills, Arcana, Heal, History, Religion. Suggested at-will powers, Lance of Faith and Sacred Flame. Suggested encounter power, Healing Strike. Suggested daily power, Beacon of Hope. Cleric class features. Clerics are capable combatants who wield simple weapons in battle. Maces and similar weapons have long been symbols of divine authority. In addition, all clerics have the class features described below. Channel Divinity. Once per encounter, you can invoke divine power, filling yourself with the might of your patron deity. With the divine might you invoke, you can wield special powers such as Turn Undead and Divine Fortune. Some clerics learn other uses for this feature. For instance, the Divinity feats in Chapter 6 grants characters with access to the Channel Divinity class feature the ability to use additional special powers. Regardless of how many different uses for Channel Divinity you know, you can only use one such ability per encounter. The special ability or power you invoke works just like all your other powers. It makes sense. Could do every round you don't attack someone, you get either a +1 to armor class, things don't usually attack combat medics, or plus D4 to healing or something. Yeah, something like that. I remember that tone in the whole manual where they aggressively suggested everything. It's like treating people who come from a rather complex system as brain rot people. It felt like treating people who come from a rather complex system as brain rot people. I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying there. It's suggesting that you don't have the brains to work out what to take as part of your build. Because I completely disagree with you. It's not about it, like the default position when you're coming out with a new edition of a game. The default position should not be, oh, people will be coming to this game from other editions. The default should be, what if this is the first time anybody has ever picked up this game? And this, with 100+ pages on just how to pick your class, that is incredibly off-putting for people. And to have a section that is not, it's not exactly like they're harping on about it. There's that much. It's a quarter of a page. It's a quarter of a page on suggested builds. which I know a lot of people would benefit greatly from. Going, this is too much. I don't want to have to read all of this. Just suggest for me how to build a character. Oh, I'll take Weapon Focus, Diplomacy, Righteous Brand, Wrathful Thunder, and Avenging Flame. Thank you very much. And if you don't like it, skip over that bit. It's a quarter of a page. It's giving people suggestions for those who didn't know what to do or don't want to min-max and spend their life reading what they want. Yeah, and even people who have come from 3.5, they might have been playing a ranger their whole life, and they pick up 4 and go, let me try something new for once. Let me try creating a cleric. I've never played a cleric, never looked at a cleric. What's a cleric able to do? And even if you are coming from 3.5, it's a brand new system with brand new rules. You don't know how a cleric works in this game. If you don't have the time or the resources to go through all of everything that a cleric can do, you might really benefit from suggested options. That was the idea, to get all the video gamers who'd never played tabletop before. That was the focus of 4E by a lot of people's standards. Yeah, a lot of people were saying it was basically trying to grab video gamers into tabletop. It's for people who select the default classes in video games. Yeah. Sorry for the English, my friend. Is that instead of letting player reading the class and understanding by themselves what should be done to play their character in the best way for them, where they were already marking the part a lot? There's nothing wrong with them doing that. You still have the option to read the rest of the thing and decide for yourself. They're very clear about that. Every one of them says suggested in big bold letters. To achieve this build, you should do this, or you could do that, or you suggested to do that. It doesn't say you have to do that. At no point is it saying or implying that you can't make it work for you. It's just saying, hey, if you don't have the time or inclination to read the next... How big is Cleric alone? Cleric is 14 pages long. And the entirety is just writing. There's maybe there's one picture over those 14 pages. 2 pictures. There it is. It's 14 pages of text, and they're just saying, if you don't like the idea of reading through the next 14 pages and understanding the complexities of how any one of these things would work with any of these other things and how to make an optimized build out of it all, we've already done the work for you. But feel free to ignore it if you want. Most of us coming from 3.5 to 4 just put 4 down after reading it. Yeah. Most people left the edition, went back to 3.5, or jumped to Pathfinder. Felt too aggressive at the time. I don't know. I'm reading it for the very first time myself, and nothing about this feels aggressively saying you should do it this way or that way. So that you're entirely putting that on yourself, I'm afraid. Not the editing, the writing, the suggestions. Nothing about this feels like they're aggressively saying you need to play it this way or you're shit. Might be a translation thing. Yeah, maybe it was whatever language you read it in. Maybe it was written much more aggressively. Channel Divinity, blah blah blah. Healer's Law. Your study of healing allows you to make the most of your healing prayers. When you grant healing with one of your cleric powers that has the healing keyword, add your wisdom modifier to the hit points the recipient gains. So because you're a cleric, you can heal plus your wisdom mod, where I guess most people wouldn't. If somebody else heals you, a paladin maybe. I don't know, because paladins also heal. I don't know why. I don't know. Healing Word. Using the Healing Word power, clerics can grant their comrades additional resilience with nothing more than a short prayer. No mechanics listed for how that works, but I bet they go into it later probably. Ritual Casting. You gain the Ritual Caster feat as a bonus feat, allowing you to use magical rituals. You possess a ritual book, and it contains 2 rituals you have mastered. The Gentle Repose ritual and one other first level ritual of your choice. That's cool. Clerics and Deities. All clerics choose a specific faith to which they devote themselves. Usually this faith is the worship of a specific patron deity, for example Moradin, Palor, or Arathis. Some clerics are devoted to churches that venerate groups of deities, or even philosophies. As a cleric, your deity does not directly grant you powers. Instead, your ordination or investiture as a cleric grants you the ability to wield divine powers. Clerics are usually formally ordained by existing clerics who perform a special ritual to do so, but on rare occasions a deity moves to directly ordain a worthy worshipper without any sort of priestly hierarchy involved. What you do with your powers once you are ordained is up to you. Although if you flagrantly and openly defy your deity's tenets, you quickly earn the enmity of the faithful. And then back to the sidebar. Cleric overview. Characteristics. You are an extremely good healer. You have a mix of melee and ranged powers. Most of your attacks deal only moderate damage, but they safeguard your allies and provide bonuses to their attacks. Religion. A cleric can choose to worship any deity, but steer clear of choosing an evil or chaotic evil deity unless you have permission from your DM to choose one. Races. Humans and dwarves make ideal clerics. Elves, half-elves and dragonborn are good clerics too, but they rarely have the same values of piety and reverence found in many human and dwarven cultures. Certain gods attract a preponderance of clerics of a particular race. For example, many, but not all, clerics of Moradin are dwarves. But in general, all races respect all gods to at least some degree. The race you play and the deity your character worships have little effect on your cleric's ability to utilize divine powers. I might have been just too harsh in the whole manual. There is definitely an element of mob mentality whenever something like this comes out and the general zeitgeist is this is shit. You kind of go into it thinking this is shit, and so you start to notice all of the things that you don't like about it, and you don't really give it as many free passes. So there was probably a little bit of that happening as well. Because that section I just read, it starts with what you could... Like, if you go into it thinking this is being really prescriptive, you can pull out the fact that it says humans and dwarves make ideal clerics. Elves, half-elves and dragonborns are less than ideal. And you can pull out that and go, it's telling me I have to play a human or a dwarf or I'm not having fun. Or you can just see that as being like, that's a suggestion saying if you want to optimize, if you want to be a min-maxer, these are the options for you. And then at the very end it says, the race you play and the deity your character worships have little effect on your powers. And it's saying, and I read that as clearly being like, it doesn't matter. Like you can like these are the things that you want to do if you want to optimize, but otherwise you can play whatever you want. So if you go, you definitely put a lot of yourself. You definitely put a lot of yourself into the thing that you read, I guess. All right, so it gives you a table of different clerics. I'm not going to bother reading those. Different deities, sorry. You must choose a deity compatible with your alignment. Good clerics served good deities. Lawful good clerics serve lawful good deities, and so on. If a deity is unaligned, your alignment doesn't matter. So a deity such as Melora has good, lawful good, evil, chaotic evil, and unaligned clerics in her service. Similarly, if you're unaligned, you can serve any god. For example, Pelor is served both by good clerics and unaligned clerics, but never by evil, chaotic evil, or lawful good clerics. Pelor, who is a god of good, a good aligned god, is never worshipped by lawful good clerics. It's so fucking bizarre. The alignment system in 4e makes so little sense to me. Like, who designed it and who thought it made sense? That they've got like this spectrum of alignment instead of a box of alignment. Where it's like unaligned in the middle, and then good, and then if you're beyond good, you're lawful good. And then you've got evil, and if you're beyond evil, you're chaotic evil. And they've got nothing else. There's no concept of chaotic good or lawful evil. Or just not good or evil, but lawful or chaotic. Like lawful neutral. Just the alignment makes no sense. The general consensus is the design team was smoking something, yeah. For most games, you should choose a good, lawful good, or unaligned deity for your cleric. Ask your dungeon master before you select an evil or chaotic evil deity. Implement. Clerics make use of holy symbols to help channel and direct their divine powers. A cleric wearing or holding a magic holy symbol can add its enhancement bonus to the attack rolls and damage rolls of cleric powers, as well as Cleric Paragon Path powers. Talking about Paragon Paths here as well. As well as Cleric Paragon Path powers that have the implement keyword. Without a holy symbol, a cleric can still use those powers, but he or she doesn't gain the bonus provided by the magic implement. Cleric powers. Your cleric powers are called prayers. Some are better for the battle cleric and some are better for the devoted cleric, but a cleric can choose any power when making a power selection. Being very clear about it. You can choose any power. Class features. The cleric has 2 class features that work like powers, Channel Divinity and Healing Word. The Channel Divinity class feature encompasses multiple powers, 2 of which, Divine Fortune and Turn Undead, are presented below. So, Divine Fortune. In the face of peril, you hold true to your faith and receive a special boon. It is a divine encounter, a free action, and it is a personal effect. You gain a +1 bonus to your next attack roll or saving throw before the end of your next turn. So use your Channel Divinity to give you a +1 bonus to the next thing you do. Or, Channel Divinity to Turn Undead instead. You see your undead foes, push them back, and root them in place. It is a divine implement radiant encounter with a standard action to use, and it gives you a close range of a burst 2. So it bursts out from you 2 spaces out. It goes out to 5 at 11th level and 8 at 21st level. So 8 squares from you, from 21st level. Interesting. One of the other things that's very clear about it being like an MMORPG, like their attempt to make it video gamey, is the fact that they are using squares as the measurement, as the base measurement for everything, rather than feet. So they're saying basically you need to be playing this on a map. They're designing everything around not being theatre of the mind, or like gridless or theatre of the mind. No. You've got to play on a square grid. With Turn Undead, it is a Wisdom versus Will. It does 1d10 plus Wisdom modifier and Radiant damage, and you push the target a number of squares equal to 3 plus your Charisma modifier. The target is immobilized until the end of your next turn. Increase the damage to 2d10 plus Wisdom modifier at 5th level, 3d10 plus Wiz at 11th level, 4d10 plus Wiz at 15th, 5d10 at 21st, and 6d10 plus Wisdom mod at 25th level. So if you get to becoming a 25th level cleric and you use Turn Undead, every undead within 8 squares of you takes 6d10 damage plus your Wisdom modifier and is pushed back equal to 3 squares plus your Charisma modifier and then immobilized. But if you miss with it, or if they succeed against your Wisdom's, their will save essentially, then they only take half the damage and they're not pushed or immobilized. That's a powerful feature. Thinking in terms of a spectrum makes sense in retrospect. It kind of does, but to define, like, if you think of it as a spectrum, then anything to the left of the middle is good, and anything to the right of the middle is bad. And, or, you can switch those around in your head if you want, but anything on one side is good, anything on the other side is bad. And then it makes no sense that a good aligned god would not be worshipped by a lawful good aligned deity, aligned cleric, because that's saying that the cleric is gooder than the god. I'm so good. I'm actually more good than that god, and so I don't worship the god. Everything is grey. Everything's always grey. Second edition Dragonlance had an actual tracker that the GM kept for each player on the good to evil act spectrum. Interesting. That would have been a lot of administration work. Unless you've got a group like Buried in the Dickheads and then you just like track it all the way down to minimum and you're like, it's just going to stay here. I like the squares idea because then you don't have to do conversions between metric and imperial. You can just assign the square to whatever unit works for your brain. That does make sense, yeah. Not necessarily. LB might refer to the laws of the same god. LB. I don't know what you mean. LG. Oh, lawful good. Lawful good might refer to the laws of the same god. Because but if you're lawful, that's my point though. If you're a lawful good cleric following the laws to a T, doing only the best thing that the laws say, and you're following the laws that Palor, for instance, I think was one of the examples it gave. Was it Melora? No, Palor. Palor is good aligned, and is therefore not worshipped by lawful good clerics. So if Palor, as a good god, lays down some laws, and the clerics worship those laws to the T, Palor goes, hey, you're too lawful now. I'm not interested. Treats them as guidelines. They're more what we call guidelines. Name it. Name it. Palor was the one who didn't have a path and had to build his own path while his clerics are following his path. Captain Barbosa. Pirates of the Caribbean, you got it. Cleric powers, turn undead, healing word, cleric feature. You whisper a brief prayer as divine light washes over your target, helping to mend its wounds. It's a special encounter ability with the divine and healing tags. You can use this power twice per encounter, but only once per round. At 16th level, you can use it thrice per encounter. It is a minor action to do. It has a burst of 5, or 10 at 11th level, 15 at 21st. You can target you or one ally. And the effect is the target can spend a healing surge and regain an additional 1d6 hit points. So healing word allows you to spend one of your healing surges as a bonus action. But one of your healing... That's interesting. Because your healing surge is a quarter of your maximum hit points. That's a lot of healing. So you as a cleric... Monsters must be doing fuck ton of damage in 4th edition. 4th edition monsters must be brutal as fuck. Because if you've got a healing surge, you've got a lot of healing surges by the looks of it. Let me see. I'm just assuming that everybody's got a lot of healing surges based on cleric. Ranger has 6 plus their con mod, so they've got a decent chunk of them too. What is this? Wizard gets 6 plus their con mod as well, so wizards have a lot. I imagine maybe cleric has 1 more than the others at general there, but paladins, Jesus, paladins have 10 plus their constitution modifier. So it looks like a lot of people have a lot of healing surges. So it doesn't cost you all that much to use them. Fighters have 9 plus your constitution. So it looks like 6 plus con mod is the fewest. So if everybody's got quite a lot of healing surges, and you can, as a bonus action or a minor action, allow them to use one of them in the middle of a battle without using their second wind, which they can also do themselves, you can, as a bonus action, twice per battle, say, hey, you, heal quarter of your hit points plus another d6 on top of that. That seems powerful. It seems like nobody's going down in 4th edition. So that must mean, by definition, that the monsters must be hitting like a truck. This consumes the healing surge? It does, yes. Does it specify if you heal a quarter of the target's HP or keep the fixed amount from the cleric? It's like it just says the target can spend a healing surge and regain an additional 1d6 hit points. So healing, you would then look at the rules for spending a healing surge, which says a quarter of your hit points. So you'd gain a quarter of your hit points back as a bonus action on the cleric's turn. Then on your turn, even if you were knocked from let's say you've got, to keep the maths easy, let's say you've got 100 hit points. Actually, let's make it an easier, let's say 40, more realistic. You've got 40 hit points. You're hit with something that knocks you down to 0 in a single attack and you're dying. On the cleric's turn, the cleric spends a healing surge, allows you to regain 10 plus a d6. Then it's your turn. You use a second wind, regain another 10 plus your con mod or something, I think it was. And then you've got your action as well to do whatever you want, and that's without having any healing or potions or anything. Any healing potions. Then let's say it comes back around to the cleric's turn. They use their other version of it as well. Bam, hits you with another 10 plus another d6 healing, and before you know it, you're back up to basically full. Then you finish that then you finish that that encounter, and you take a short rest, and you use another one of your 10 healing surges for the day. I think from memory, I think people talk about 4th edition as being like encounter after encounter. It was more designed because it was more video game feely. It was more designed to be like you were going from one fight into another fight into another fight into another fight. And so you were using up those healing surges throughout the day. So maybe that's where the balance comes in, the game design. Players are expected to use the surge every fight. An average dragon would be ripping out hundreds of HP damage each round. That's probably what it is, yeah. Fights in 4E were brutal compared to 5E. That's probably what it is. You can heal a hell of a lot just from having high HP to begin with. Wizards can heal. Everybody can heal. In 4th edition, everybody has the option to do a second wind like fighters can in 5th edition. It's not the cleric spending their healing surge, but the targets. Yes, it's the targets spending their healing surge. The target can spend a healing surge and regain an additional blah blah blah. Let's roleplay more hitting. Taking 40 HP in a 5th level fight. Normal single hit by a monster in 4E. That's what it is then, as I was expecting. The monsters are damaging a lot in this game. This edition. Problem is not having a cleric in the team then. Fights will be longer, I guess. Okay, let's go through some of the level 1 at will prayers. Lance of Faith. It's an attack cleric spell from level 1. A brilliant ray of light sears your foe with golden radiance. Sparkles of light linger around the target, guiding your ally's attack. Blah blah blah. Wisdom modifier, radiant damage, and one ally you can see gains a +2 power bonus to his or her next attack roll against the target. So this is a guiding bolt essentially. It's not as much damage as guiding bolt, not by nearly as much of an amount, but it is an ability. That is an ability. So those are all encounter. Those are all at wills. Yeah, that's right. So Lance of Faith, it was a cantrip essentially. It's a cantrip, but it gives you an extra damage on being like, bam, there's a little bit of damage, and now you can hit him easier. Another cleric attack, Priest's Shield. You utter a minor defensive prayer as you attack with your weapon. It does a little bit of damage, and you and one adjacent ally gain a +1 power bonus to your armor class until the end of your next turn. So hit them, deal a little bit of damage, and get some armor class back as well. Righteous Brand. You smite your foe with a weapon and brand it with a ghostly glowing symbol of your deity's anger. By naming one of your allies when the symbol appears, you add a divine power to that ally's attacks against the branded foe. Little bit of damage, and one ally within 5 squares of you gains a power bonus to their melee attack rolls against the target equal to your strength modifier until the end of their next turn. End of your next turn, sorry. So Lance of Faith and Righteous Brand do similar things. But Lance of Faith does more damage. And Lance of Faith is ranged, Righteous Brand is melee. Okay. Sacred Flame. Sacred light shines from above, searing a single enemy with its radiance, while at the same time aiding an ally with its beneficent power. Radiant damage, and an ally you can see chooses to either gain temporary hit points equal to your charisma modifier plus half of your level, or make a saving throw. Make a saving throw. Why would they choose to make a saving throw? Wait, what? Or make a saving throw. So does that respond to the ongoing effects that we heard about before of setting somebody on fire, and they would be ongoing fire until they have made a saving throw? So you get to, if you use Sacred Flame, whoosh, you hit somebody with radiant damage, and then you can either give somebody temporary hit points or allow them to remake a saving throw that they might be failing. So hey, you're on fire, let's put you out. Let's give you that chance to make that saving throw. That's an interesting effect. I remember the 3.5 being encounter after encounter as well, but without this much healing. Depends how you play it. It's really up to the DM. The table for is constructed to be streamlined for combat. Yeah. Funny how much of 4E DNA is in 5E. Yeah. Yeah, things called Sacred Flame, but acting completely differently. It's interesting that they choose to do it that way, because like it makes it harder for people who have played multiple editions to remember how it works in this newest edition. Level 1 Encounter Prayers. These are all cleric attacks. Cause fear. Holy symbol ignites with the fury of your god. Uncontrollable terror grips your enemy, causing him to instantly recoil. The target moves its speed plus your charisma modifier away from you. The fleeing target avoids unsafe squares and difficult terrain if it can. The movement provokes opportunity attacks. Divine Glow. Murmuring a prayer to your deity, you invoke a blast of white radiance from your holy symbol. Foes burn in its stern light, but your allies are heartened and guided by it. It deals radiant damage, and allies in the blast gain +2 power bonus to attack rolls. Healing Strike. Divine Radiance gleams from your weapon. When you smite your enemy, your deity bestows a minor blessing in the form of healing for you or one of your allies. It deals a little bit of radiant damage, and the target is marked until the end of your next turn. In addition, you or one ally within 5 squares of you can spend a healing surge. So Healing Strike deals some radiant damage to this target, and I get to heal from it. It seems like you definitely need a cleric in the party, because they are healing left and right. Jesus. Wrathful Thunder. Your arm is made strong by the power of your deity. When you strike, a terrible thunderclap smites your adversary and dazes him. Deals thunder damage, and the target is dazed until the end of your next turn. I'm going to have to learn what dazed means eventually. Alright, then we've got level 1 Daily Prayers. Avenging Flame. You slam your weapon into your foe, who bursts into flame. Divine Fire avenges... Nope. Avengers, yeah. I just suddenly had like a bit of a... What's that word? Divine Fire avenges each attack your enemy dares to make. If you hit, you do some amount of damage, and then an ongoing 5 fire damage. If you miss, you deal half damage, and there's no ongoing fire damage. And a special is that if your target attacks on its turn, it cannot attempt a saving throw against the ongoing damage. Oh, that's cool. So Avenging Flame. If you hit this thing, it is forced to put out the fire or attack, but not both. You're like, hit me and burn for another 5 at the start of your next turn. Hit me again and burn for another 5 at the start of the next turn. Keep burning, buddy. As long as you keep swinging, you keep burning. Took me a while of 5e to get the hang of the differences from 3e. Yeah, I bet. Especially with all of the spells being named the same stuff, but acting completely differently. I can already see some of that being a problem for 5.5. Some of the stuff that they've been releasing and talking about. I'm like, oh, that's the same name. You've called it the exact same thing, but it works completely differently now. That's going to become a problem. Other daily prayers that you have options of. Beacon of Hope. A burst of divine energy harms your foes and heals your allies. The radiant energy lingers around your holy symbol and improves your healing powers for the rest of the battle. On a hit, the target is weakened until the end of its next turn, and the effect is you and your allies in the burst regain 5 hit points, and your healing powers restore +5 hit points until the end of the encounter. Damn, hit them with a Beacon of Hope early, and then all of the healing that we've been talking about already also heals another 5 on top of that. So, to go back to the example with the 40 hit points, you would heal them for quarter of their hit points, +5, plus a d6, and you'd heal them for basically half of their hit points. With a healing word bonus action. They don't have concentration in these things. They don't have like a concentration effect. Like you can just cast these things and not have to worry about it. Doesn't look like there's concentration in this game. Cascade of Light. A burst of divine radiance sears your foe. You do a decent chunk of damage, and the target gains vulnerability 5 to all of your attacks until they save to end it. On a miss, they take half of that damage and gains no vulnerability. Jesus, hit them with a Cascade of Light, and then they're vulnerable to every single attack. I don't know what vulnerability means in this game. It's not just doubles the damage. Oh, it says vulnerability 5. So I guess if you do an attack, it adds an additional 5 to the damage. Is it? Is that how that works? Vulnerability 5. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Dazed. You grant combat advantage, and you can take either a standard action, a move action, or a minor action on your turn. You can also take free actions. You can't take immediate actions or opportunity actions. You can't flank an enemy. You can't take immediate actions or opportunity attacks. You cannot flank an enemy. You can take standard action, move action, or a minor action. So only one of those things by the sounds of it. And you grant advantage. Cool. All conditions P27. Thank you. 227. 277. When's 5.5e due? It's coming in September, I think. I think they're releasing the official PHB in September, Monster Manual in October, and DMG in November, I think. Ironically, it's called D&D 2024, but not all the core books will be out this year. Oh, really? I heard that it was September, October, November, but I might be mistaken. Vulnerability causes a creature to take a specified amount of additional damage each time it takes damage of a specified type. Right. So because it's got vulnerability 5, if you hit it at all, because it says all of your attacks, if you hit it with an attack at all, it takes an extra 5 every time you hit it. That's pretty good. Guardian of Faith. You conjure a ghostly guardian, indistinct except for a glowing shield emblazoned with your deity's symbol. A burst of radiance erupts from it to sear foes that move next to it. It's got all sorts of tags, and the effect is you conjure a guardian that occupies 1 square within range. Every round you can move the guardian 3 squares as a move action. The guardian lasts until the end of the encounter. Any creature that ends its turn next to the conjured guardian is subjected to a Wisdom versus Fortitude attack. On a hit, the attack deals 1d8 plus Wisdom modifier in radiant damage. Yeah. They can just choose to not end their turn next to him and they take no damage. It's a bit weird. Whatever. At-will prayers, encounter prayers, daily prayers. Level 2, utility prayers. They've got Bless, which gives you a +1 power to attack rolls. Cure Light Wounds, regains hit points as if it had spent a healing surge. So Cure Light Wounds actually does less curing than Healing Word in this game, but it doesn't expend one of its healing surges at least. Divine Aid makes a target makes a saving throw with a bonus equal to your charisma modifier. So if somebody's having a hard time saving against a particular thing, you can cast Divine Aid on them and give them your charisma modifier as a bonus to their saving throw, and allow them to make a saving throw out of turn, I suppose. Sanctuary, the target receives a +5 bonus to all of their defenses, and the effect lasts until the target attacks or until the end of your next turn. Completely not even recognizable as the same thing that Sanctuary in 5e is. Not at all the same. And yet they call them both Sanctuary. Fucking hell. Shield of Faith. The target gains a +2 bonus to AC. It's exactly how it is in D&D. Very good. In 5e, rather. Okay. I'm not going to read through the level 3 encounter prayers or the level 5 daily prayers. I'll just read the titles of them. Blazing Beacon. Command. Command just dazes them by the looks of it. Daunting Light. Split the Sky. That sounds cool. Does a little bit of thunder damage, and you push the targets and knock it prone. You got Consecrated Ground. Burst Radiance of something or other, blah blah blah. Rune of Peace. The target cannot attack you. That's good. Spiritual Weapon. Conjure a weapon that appears in the target's square and attacks them. They gain combat advantage against their target. Move the weapon as another move action to attack somebody else. If you use a minor action to sustain it, you can repeat the attack. Yeah, that makes sense. Weapon of the Gods, blah blah blah. Level 6 utility prayer. How many of these do we choose? Like when you're making your character, how many things do you get? Train skills, build options. Suggested at-will powers. How do you know how many at-will powers you can have? Suggested feat. Surely it says somewhere like how many at-will powers I take. Wrathful Thunder. Avenging Flame. Where does it... Did I miss something? How many... How... Do I just get access to all of them? If I get access to all of them, why would it suggest... Why would it give me suggested at-will powers to take? I'm confused. I'm confused. Players Handbooks in September, Gender Masters Guides in November, Monster Manual in January. Oh, okay. I heard it was September, October, November, so maybe the October one has been pushed back to January. Why not release the core books altogether? Like, if there are major changes, you can't play until at least the DMG's out, unless you do a bunch of homebrewing, and then you risk having to change it. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question, but I don't know the answer to it. Page 29. What is page 29? Character advancement. Oh, this is the table that tells you... Right, yeah. So this table tells you how many powers you've got, and that's not related to your class at all. So everybody has the same number of at-will, encounter, and daily and utility powers. Gotcha, yeah. So at first level, you get your class features, you get your racial traits, you get 1 feat, which we haven't looked at yet. You train your starting skills. You gain 2 at-will attack powers, 1 encounter attack power, and 1 daily attack power. And then at second level, you would gain your first utility power and another feat. Then at third level, you gain another encounter attack power. It's always just ones by the looks of it. You gain 1 more power, 1 more power, 1 more power, 1 more power. 1 more attack power, 1 more attack power. 1 more Paragon path power. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You're only ever going up by ones by the looks of it. 2, 3. 2, 3. 3s, 2s to 3s, 3s to 4s, 3 to 4. You can replace an encounter attack power, but you don't gain a new one. That's an interesting thing. Why would you... What? Why? Whatever. You can replace one of your daily attack powers, but you don't gain any new ones. There's a lot of customizability then. So every level you're not gaining any cleric things, cleric powers. You're choosing, every time you level up, you're choosing what is one of the new cleric features that I want to take. Or replacing one that you've already got. Okay. So every time that it's... So from all of these things, every time it introduces a new series, so like level 3, it gave me 4 new options for encounter prayers. I would just choose one of those 4. Level 5 daily prayers, I would choose one of the 4 options. Level 6 utility prayers, I would choose one of the 4 options that it's given me. And so on for all of them by the looks of it. Level 10, level 13 encounter prayers. This is why it's not going to take us forever to get through all of the classes, because I'm not reading all of this shit. I'm not reading all of the different possible utility prayers and everything that you're doing. Level 22 utility prayers, level 23 encounter prayers, level 25 daily prayers. I just want to see the big sort of at the end of it all. Alright, level 29. We're going to jump to level 29. No additional at-will powers after level 1? No, it doesn't look like it, eh? At-will. Standard actions. Encounter dailies. Yeah, no additional at-wills. Oh no, you do get some at-wills. The at-wills are in green. You get the option at level 6. That's the last time you can take another at-will power. Level 6, it's a utility prayer, and it's called Holy Lantern. A conjured beacon of divine light shines like a lantern, piercing shadows and deception. You conjure a lantern that appears in a square within range and sheds light 5 squares in all directions. You and allies in the light gain a +2 power bonus to perception and insight checks. And that's an at-will feature. But other than that, yeah, that's the only at-will features that you get. Level 29, Daily Prayers, Astral Storm, and God Strike. With Astral Storm, if you hit, you deal 6d10 plus your wisdom modifier of cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. Resistance doesn't reduce the damage type unless the target has resistance to all 4 damage types, and only the weakest of the resistance will apply. A target that has vulnerable to any one of the 4 damage types is subjected to that vulnerability. On a miss, you do half damage, and the effect is the burst creates a stormy zone until the end of your next turn. And as a minor action, you can sustain it to make another 2d10 plus wisdom modifier lightning damage on subsequent turns. Does sound pretty powerful. Although 6d10 is like 33 damage. So plus your wisdom modifier, about 35, 38 damage. It's not bad, but it's not a level 29 ability, I don't think. Although it's a... How big of a thing? Area. Burst 5 within 20 squares. Burst of 5 is a pretty big area, I guess. And then God Strike. Your weapon explodes with brilliant light as you swing it at your foe. On a hit, it does 7 plus 7W plus strength modifier radiant damage. And on a miss, it does half damage. What? What? What am I missing here? What is a level 29 feature and it does... It's a level 29 feature and it does 7 plus your strength modifier in damage. So it does like an extra 10 damage for a level 29 feature. And it's a daily, so you can only do it once per day. Against a single target, a single creature. What am I missing? 10 damage? What? Sometimes some classes can have more at-will first level powers, probably. It lights up your weapon all pretty. Yeah, that's probably what I'm missing. It lights up your weapon all pretty. What the fuck am I... What? Your weapon explodes with brilliant light as you swing it at your foe. It's a standard action to do. And on a hit, it does 7 brackets W, which whatever that means. It's just a flat 7 damage plus your strength modifier in radiant damage. That's like a level 1 thing that everybody... That's just hitting somebody with your sword. It does 7 damage plus your strength modifier. Like, that's just hitting somebody with your sword and it does that much damage. Why is that... What? Why is that called God Strike? What am I missing? I don't understand. I'm genuinely thinking that's a typo and they've missed a 0 off the end and it's 70 damage. Is it 7 times your weapon damage? Nope. It's 7 brackets W plus strength modifier. And I don't know what the W is meaning, but it's the same thing that's been used after any time that you are just doing a static damage instead of rolling for your damage. Anytime that you're just punching somebody or something, it just says 7 is the W is a weapon. W is weapon damage, is it? It is a multiplier? Okay, that makes sense. So 7 times whatever your weapon damage would be. If it's a D8 weapon, it's 7d8. Okay, this makes more sense. So, on a strike, it deals 7 times your weapon plus your strength modifier. That's, I mean, that's okay. That's okay, but that's still kind of shit. For a level 29, we're talking like you're a god. You are like a mote under like a proper bona fide demigod. and you're dealing 7d8 for your once daily ability. That's that feels garbage. If you're dealing, especially if you're dealing a 1d6 mace, you're wielding a mace and you're doing 7d6 damage. That's nothing. That's less than a fireball. You're doing like 21 damage at that point. And the monsters are pushing 1,000 HP each at that level. Yeah, that's shit. That seems like really shit. On a miss, you still deal half damage, which is good, but whatever. Paragon Paths. Angelic Avenger. If you take the Angelic Avenger Paragon Path, the prerequisite is it's a Cleric class. You become a special servant of your god, operating with angelic powers to promote the word of your faith. When you use your angelic powers, you briefly take on the aspect of an angel. Your face blurs into angelic blankness, astral wings sprout from your back, and your lower body blurs away. Angelic Avenger Path features Angelic Action at 11th level. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, you can also gain a +4 bonus to attack rolls until the start of your next turn. Astral Vibrance. Choose an energy form when you gain this feature. When a bloodied enemy is within 5 squares of you at the start of its turn, it takes energy damage to your chosen type. That's good. And in weapon training, you're proficient with one heavy blade of your choice. Sounds fun. And then Blood and Radiance. From 16th level onwards, an enemy that bloodies you with an attack is outlined with Holy Radiance, granting combat advantage to you and your allies until the end of its next turn. Angelic Avenger Prayers, Astral Wave, Angelic Presence, and an Angel Ascendant. Divine Oracle. I have seen your fate, written in the waves of the astral sea. You become the voice of your god, full of prophecy and omens. When you use your prophetic powers, your eyes glow in the silvery depths of the astral sea. Foresight. You and each ally within 5 squares cannot be surprised, and you roll twice when making an initiative check. Use whichever roll you like. This is the introduction slowly of the concept of rolling with advantage. Roll twice and take whichever roll you want. That's pretty close to just saying roll twice, take the higher of the two. Prophetic Action. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, you also gain an extra move that you can use during another turn later in this encounter. Terrifying Insight. Whenever you make an attack against will, you can roll twice and use the higher result. Sounds an awful lot like advantage. If the attack misses, you are dazed until the end of your next turn. Divine Oracle Prayers. Prophecy. I kind of like the flavor of that one. Like your terrifying insight. You know how they're going to move, so you get to attack with advantage. And if you miss, you're so shocked by it. You're like, but I saw the future. I knew how. And you're dazed. And you're like, I don't know what. But I shouldn't have missed. I could see them. I rolled twice and took the higher. I'm just constantly dazed. What ability was the previous one? I have an Italian manual. Which ability are you talking about? I'm reading the Paragon Paths of the Cleric. I was reading Angelic Avenger, and now I'm on Divine Oracle. The Divine Oracle prayers are Prophecy of Doom, Good Omens, and Hammer of Fate. Radiant Servant. I am the light of faith, banishing the darkness. You become the light of your God in the world, shining divine illumination into every dark corner and the deep shadows. When you use your radiant powers, your countenance glows with the brightness of the sun. The brightness of the sun? Let's not use hyperbole here, because I'm going to take that literally. I'm going to say you turn into the sun and everybody is blinded immediately. It burns their retinas to look at you directly. Radiant Servant Path features illuminating attacks. Your powers that have the Radiant keyword can now score a critical hit on a natural die roll of 19 or 20. Nice. Radiant Action. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, you can also choose an enemy within 5 squares of you. The enemy takes ongoing radiant damage equal to your level. Save ends. Lasting Light. Any saving throws made by demons or undead creatures to remove effects you have placed upon them receive a -2 penalty. Didn't say the magic word. You burn with the light of 1,000 candles. Yes, that's much better. My manual has a different order. Interesting. Maybe the sun of this world is dimmer. It has a dimmer switch. Radiant Servant Prayers. Solar Wrath, Healing Sun, and Radiant Brilliance. Radiant Servant. And then finally we've got War Priest. Let loose the gift of battle. Your god demands battle to accomplish the tenets of your faith, and you are the chosen priest of this forefront of the war. When you call upon your divine powers, your weapons glow with holy light. War Priest path features. Extra damage action. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, you also add 1/2 of your level to the damage dealt by any of your standard actions this turn. War Priest strategy. Once per encounter, if you or an adjacent ally rolls a 1 when making a melee attack or a close attack, you can call for a reroll. You can just call for a reroll? What does that mean? Reroll! What weird wording. You may reroll the attack. No, you can call for a reroll. War Priest's training. You receive a +1 bonus to armor class when wearing heavy armor. And War Priest's challenge. When you hit an enemy with an at-will melee attack, you can choose to mark that enemy for the rest of the encounter. The next time that enemy shifts or attacks a creature other than you, you can make an opportunity attack against the enemy. If you mark a new enemy with this feature, the previous marks end. And your War Priest prayers are Battle Cry, Battle Favor, and Battle Pyres. Very cool. Can I call for a Rickroll? You can call for a Rickroll D20, which I got downstairs that somebody sent me. Waiter, I'd like a reroll, please. This one isn't cooked properly. There's a hair in it. Not and there's a hair in it. It's not cooked properly because there's a hair in it. You can call for a reroll. Doesn't mean it will come when called. Exactly. Alright, moving on from Cleric. We're moving into Fighter. On to page 75. You'll have to deal with me first, dragon. Class traits. Roll, Defender. You are very tough and have the exceptional ability to contain enemies in melee. Power Source. Martial. You have become a master of combat through endless hours of practice, determination, and your own sheer physical toughness. Key abilities. Strength, Dexterity, Wisdom, and Constitution. Only a few of them. Armor proficiencies. Cloth, Leather, Hide, Chainmail, Scale, Light Shields, and Heavy Shields. Weapon proficiencies. Simple Melee, Military Melee, Simple Ranged, and Military Ranged. Why does it not just say all? I suppose it hasn't included improvised weapons, has it? Interesting that they turned it to simple and martial. Is that the words in 5e? Weapon proficiencies, simple and martial. They call it martial in 5e, right? How tough are you? Are you 100 tough? Military melee is never explained. Military melee would mean like the types of weapons that you are proficient in include those that would take military training in order to understand how to wield them properly. Bonus to defense, you get a +2 fortitude save as a fighter. Hit points at first level is 15 plus your con score. Jesus. If you've got a 15 con score, you've got 30 hit points at first level. Fucking hell. And then you gain 6 hit points every level thereafter, and you've got 9 plus your constitution modifier healing surges per day. So at level 2 you might have 36. At level 3 you'll have 42 hit points. That's not bad at all. Monk weapons, martial weapons, simple weapons, yeah. I wonder why they call them martial weapons and not military weapons. Trained skills. From the class list below, choose 3 of your skills at first level. So you don't just come with any trained skills as a fighter. With clerics, you start with religion. With rogues, you can start with stealth or deception or whatever it was, bluffing. But as a fighter, you don't get any skills like automatically. You have to pick them all, which is just 3 from the following: athletics, endurance, healing, intimidating, and Streetwise. Streetwise is a skill that we don't have in 5e. I don't think there's an equivalent either. Streetwise. What would Streetwise equivalent be? I don't know. I'll have to look it up when I get to Streetwise, when I get to the skill chapter, which I think is after classes. Your build options: Great Weapon Fighter or Guardian Fighter, and then your class features are Combat Challenge, Combat Superiority, and Fighter Weapon Talent. Fighters are determined combat adepts trained to protect the other members of their adventuring groups. Fighters define the front line by bashing and slicing foes into submission while reflecting enemy attacks through the use of heavy armor. Fighters draw weapons for gold, for glory, for duty, and for the mere joy of unrestrained martial exercise. Regardless of your level of skill and the specific weapons you eventually master, your motivations determine who you defend and who you slay. You could be a noble champion who pledges your blade to gallant causes, a calculating mercenary who cares more for the clink of gold than praise, a homeless prince on the run from assassins, or a blood-loving thug looking for the next good fight. The future is yours. When you unsheath your weapon, what battle cry flies from your lips? And some good, Dragonborn artwork of a fighter with a shield. Pretty cool. Creating a fighter. Streetwise in the streets. Yeah, wisdom in the streets. Intelligent in the sheets. Finding the weird store that sells you a specific potion, whether an inn is sus, things like that. Now, I understand what Streetwise is and how you would use it. I'm just trying to think that I don't think we've got any equivalent in 5e. It would be an intelligence-based something check, I guess. Creating a fighter, you can choose any fighter powers you like for your character, but fighters naturally fall into two basic groups, the Great Weapon Fighter and the Guardian Fighter. All fighters rely on strength. Fighters also need constitution, dexterity, or wisdom, depending on which weapon they favour. See Fighters and Melee Weapons for more information. Great Weapon Fighter! You're interested in dealing out the most damage you can. You prefer big two-handed weapons such as Great Sword or Great Axe. You're more interested in fighting hard than fighting smart. Your best ability score is definitely strength. A good constitution improves your ability to use high damage weapons such as axes and hammers. Plus, extra hit points always help. Select powers that work well with two-handed weapons to make the most of this build. Suggested feat: Power Attack. Suggested skills: Athletics, Endurance, Intimidate. Suggested at-will powers: blah 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 blah. Doesn't matter. Guardian Fighter: To fight better, you fight smarter. You're willing to trade offense for superior defense and better ability to control the battlefield around you. You fight with a heavy shield and a good one-handed weapon, such as a longsword, a flail, or a battle axe. Like the Great Weapon Fighter, you make strength your best ability score. After that, prioritize your dexterity to take advantage of weapons that can be improved by dexterity-based feats, or your wisdom to make the most of your combat superiority class feature. You're hard to hurt and hard to move away from. Select powers that make use of your one-handed weapon and shield, as well as take advantage of your higher dexterity score. And then suggested blah blah blahs. Fascinating then that they don't have subclasses in this game. They just have the class, and then a huge amount of customization for the class. Of every level you pick a different power that you have. That's really interesting. I'm very much preferring 5e. I am very glad that 5e is the design that it is, because it's so much better. So much less work for somebody brand new to it to be understanding everything that you get at the different levels and not having a choice to make it every single level. Because 5e has 11 skills in total. 5e has 18 skills. Fighter class features. Some of your most important characteristics are the ability to wear very good armor, your exceptional hit point total, and your mastery of all military weapons. In addition, you have 3 unique class features. Combat Challenge, Combat Superiority, and Fighter Weapon Talent. Combat challenge. In combat, it's dangerous to ignore a fighter. Every time you attack an enemy, whether the attack hits or misses, you can choose to mark that target. The mark lasts until the end of your next turn. While a target is marked, it takes a -2 penalty to attack rolls for any attack that doesn't include you as a target. This is where the shit gets confusing, because now everybody's doing shit like this on their turn. I've hit you with this, and I missed you with my attack, but I'm still going to mark you. And while you're marked by the fighter, you've got a -2 attack against somebody else. Okay, so now I've got to remember that I've got a -2 if I don't attack the fighter, even though it's a full round before I get round to this guy. But when I attack with this guy, I need to remember to attack the fighter, otherwise I get a -2 on the attack. Oh, but now the Paladin's just hit me with some sort of aura, and I've got a -3 from that. And that, oh shit! Now some wizard used some at-will ability to knock me prone, and so now I'm prone, so I've got a -4 from that. Fucking hell! All these floating negatives. Terrible game design. A creature can be subject to only one mark at a time. A new mark supersedes a mark that was already in place. In addition, whenever a marked enemy that is adjacent to you shifts or makes an attack that does not include you, you can make a melee basic attack against that enemy as an immediate interrupt. So the fighter, with presumably several attacks per round, can attack and hit or miss, mark a whole bunch of targets around them, and then when any one of them moves away, the fighter now has to remember, is that one of the ones that's marked, or is that not marked? I definitely marked him, but was that on round 3 or round 4? Like, is he still marked, or has that run out yet? You have to remember all that shit. You need so many tokens to play this game. You need tokens upon tokens of like, oh, I'll just put a token next to this guy to remind me that he's marked. This is exactly why combat's become long. Yeah. I see what someone was meaning about aggressive phrasing. It's a lot of do this, do that, and not we recommend. Yeah, but they're under the category of one of these things is suggest, like, if you're already reading the section where it's saying, if you want to play a great weapon master, and then the rest of it is do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. But the whole thing is superseded by the fact that it starts with, if you want to play a great weapon master, do this. The whole thing is still a suggestion. You're reading the category of, it's like, you're in the paragraph where they are suggesting what to do, and then they're telling you, do this. This is the first one I've caught, and the new skills are like, what? Endurance streetwise? Yeah, endurance streetwise, heal, diplomacy, bluff, thievery. But you only get that bonus on a full moon on a Wednesday when it's raining. Yeah. Anyway, there's that. And then combat superiority. You gain a bonus to opportunity attacks equal to your wisdom modifier. An enemy struck by your opportunity attack stops moving. Oh, so you all get sentinel as a fighter. That's cool. If a move provoked it stops moving if a move provoked the attack. If it still has actions remaining, it can use them to resume moving. So it can use its actions to move instead. And then fighter weapon talent. Choose either one-handed or two-handed weapons, and when using a weapon of your chosen style, you get a +1 bonus to attack rolls. Nice and simple, nice and easy. I have a +5 bonus, but because I'm using a two-handed weapon, I get a +1 bonus on top of that. And because I'm a Dragonborn and I'm under half health, I've now got a +1 bonus on top of that. And then because this guy is radiant because of the Cleric's radiant thing, I've got a +2 bonus from that. Hooey. Nice and simple, right? Easy to remember all of the pluses. Fighters and melee weapons. Fighters master intricacies of melee weapon skills that other characters can't match. Unlike other classes, fighters have many encounter powers that work better when used with specific groups of melee weapons. Powers associated with a weapon group favour a particular ability score mix, so that fighters with high constitution are likely to want to use axes, hammers and picks, while fighters with high dexterity are more likely to favour heavy blades, light blades, flails and spears. The weapon feats described in Chapter 6 that provide optimised abilities for specific groups of weapons favour the same ability score mixes. So the list below notes the melee weapon groups and the ability score that is most likely to help you optimise your fighter abilities with the weapon group. I didn't take any of that in. Melee weapon groups and associated statistics table. Axe, Constitution, and higher than normal strength. Flail, Dexterity. Hammer, Constitution. Heavy Blade, Dexterity. Light Blade, Dexterity alone is sometimes enough. Mace, Constitution. Pick, Constitution, and rarely Dexterity. Polearm, wisdom, and rarely dexterity. The fuck are you attacking with wisdom for if you've got a polearm? What the hell? Spear, dexterity, and staff, constitution. What also does your constitution have to do with anything? Using an axe is your I suppose it's like your endurance, your like stamina, because you're swinging something heavy. Hammers and axes and staffs are pretty fucking hard to keep wielding, which is constitution based rather than strength based. I can actually see that. Having on my 35th birthday this year had a medieval weapons expert come around and teach us how to use a lot of these weapons in real life. He was showing us a quarterstaff and how to use it, and fuck is it hard. I would not, like, I would die if I had to defend my village from marauding bandits and I had a quarterstaff. I'd die immediately. Like, they are heavy motherfucking things, and they are so hard to wield. I used a bow at karate and it was easy, but also likes bamboo and light material. Yeah, bow staff, not a quarterstaff. Like, you think when I've played monks and stuff in the past, and I talk about like having a quarterstaff and I'm like spinning it over my head and doing attacks with it, I'm thinking of like a bow staff that I've played around with at martial arts and stuff before. But that is not a quarterstaff. A quarterstaff is like a fucking log. You might as well be doing a caber toss with it. Like a huge, big, thick piece of fucking wood, and you're like swinging it around, trying to jab with it and stuff, and keeping people away. That's some heavy shit. Just cast Shillelagh on it, and you'll be right. Yeah. Most melee weapon groups, with the exception of light blades, require some element of strength to access the weapon feats that improve their importance. What does that mean? The list of weapon groups above mentions the ability score other than strength that helps access the feats that improve a specific group of weapons. Strength is mentioned in the list only if a weapon group has unusually high requirements for strength. A few weapons, including most polearms, are part of multiple groups and can therefore be approached from different optimal ability score builds. So you need strength and constitution in order to wield axes, strength and dexterity to wield flails, and so on. That makes sense. Characteristics. You are extremely tough, with a great armor class and lots of hit points. You have extraordinary resilience against physical attack. You don't have much ability to fight at range, but you excel at melee combat. You have special abilities that make it dangerous for enemies to ignore you, so you can contain foes and keep them away from friends. That's very good. Religion. Fighters naturally favour deities of war, combat, adventure and valour. Bahamut and Kord are popular, as is Avandra. Many unaligned or evil fighters pay homage to Bane, the god of war. Races. Fighters come from all races. Dragonborn, dwarves and humans are the most common. Fighter powers. Your powers are called exploits. Some work better for great weapon fighters and some work better for guardian fighters, but you can choose any power you like when you reach a level that allows you to choose a new power. The choice of weapon you make also provides benefits to certain fighter powers. So your at-will exploits are Cleave. You hit an enemy and cleave into another. Reaping Strike. You punctuate your scything attacks with wicked jabs and small cutting blows that slip through your enemy's defences. Sure Strike. You trade power for precision. And Tide of Iron. After each mighty swing, you bring your shield to bear and use it to push your enemy back. That's not bad. So those are the things you're going to be doing all the time. Smashing them with stuff. Then you've got your encounter exploits. Covering attack. You launch a dizzying barrage of thrusts at your enemy, compelling him to give you all of his attention. Under the cover of your ferocious attack, one of your allies can safely retreat from the same foe. You deal 2 times the weapon plus strength modifier and damage, and your ally adjacent to the target can shift 2 squares. Passing attack. You strike at one foe and allow momentum to carry you forward into a second strike against a second foe. On a hit, you deal damage and you can shift 1 square, make a secondary attack. And the secondary attack, one creature other than the primary target, you can do strength plus 2 versus their armor class, and on a hit you deal the damage to them as well. Spinning Sweep. You spin beneath an enemy's guard with a long powerful cut, and then sweep your leg through his an instant later to knock him head over heels. You deal your weapon damage and knock the target prone. Steel Serpent Strike. You stab viciously at your foe's knees or foot to slow him down. No matter how tough he is, he's going to favour that leg for a while. You deal 2 times your weapon's damage, and the target is slowed and cannot shift until the end of your next turn. So Fighter's very much about keeping the enemies where they want them, essentially. Very good. I like that design. Your daily exploits as a fighter. Brute Strike. You shatter armour and bone with a ringing blow. You do 3 times the damage of your normal weapon. Comeback Strike. A timely strike against a hated foe invigorates you, giving you the strength and resolve to fight on. You do 2 times your weapon's damage, and you can spend a healing surge. And then Villain's Menace. You strike your enemy hard and hound him with skill, parries, and stern reprisals. You do 2 times your damage, and you gain a +2 power bonus to attack rolls and a +4 power bonus to damage rolls against the target. And even on a miss, you gain a +1 and a +2. Very good. So they aren't rolled; they're just 2 times per 2 times the weapon. Roll to hit not included. No, I'm just skipping over the stuff to hit. You need to roll strength versus armor class, strength versus armor class. All of these are strength versus armor class. You still need to be able to hit in order to do the thing. Level 2, Utility Exploits. Boundless Endurance. Get over here! No opening. And Unstoppable. You let your adrenaline surge carry you through the battle. You gain temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your con mod. Get over here. You slide the target 2 squares to a square that is adjacent to you. One of your allies. Level 3, Encounter Exploits. Armor Piercing Thrust, Crushing Blow, Dance of Steel, and Precise Strike. Some of these sound fun. Rain of Blows and Sweeping Blow. Level 5 Daily Exploits. Crack the Shell, Dizzying Blow, Rain of Steel. Level 6 Utility Exploits. Battle Awareness, Defensive Training, Unbreakable. Unbreakable. Encounters. Let's jump forwards to the end of the thing, which is level 29 Daily Powers. Finish him. Level 29 Daily Powers for the fighter. Force the Battle, No Mercy, and Storm of Destruction. Force the Battle. With the slightest flick of your weapon and minimal movement, you control the battle and turn your enemy's thoughts from conquest to survival. You deal an extra amount of weapon damage with your at-will and encounter fight powers. If an enemy starts its turn adjacent to you, you can use an at-will fighter power against it as a free action at the start of its turn, as long as you are able to make opportunity attacks. Jesus. You just start off by going, boom, force the battle. It's a daily ability. It's just a stance that you take, and they go, shit. Oh shit, we're going to die. And you can deal extra... Basically, your weapon goes up by the amount of damage of your weapon. So, like a D10 weapon goes up by another D10. With any of your abilities, essentially. All of your abilities go up by your weapon damage. And you can, at will, take an opportunity attack at the start of any turn where you're adjacent to the enemy. That's awesome. No Mercy. Let nothing stand between a warrior and the object of his wrath. A daily ability allows you to do 7 times your weapon damage plus your strength modifier in damage. Storm of Destruction. You knock aside your enemy's weapons, creating holes in their defenses that enable you to strike deadly blows against 2 of them at once. On a hit, you deal 5 times your weapon damage plus your strength modifier, and on a miss, you deal half the damage. That's way better than the other option. The No Mercy option, keeping in mind this is like demigod level fighter ability, the No Mercy option is, again, as shit as the Cleric one was, it's just 7 times your weapon damage plus your strength modifier. And if you miss, it does nothing. The next option that you can take instead is attack 2 creatures, deal each of them 5 times your weapon damage instead of 7, plus your strength modifier, and then on a miss you deal half the damage anyway. And you get 2 attacks for the same thing. Like, who would design that and think doing an extra 2d8 is dealing an extra like 2d8 or 2d10 against one creature makes up for not having an entire second attack against another creature and dealing half the damage if you miss. Stupid people, that's who. I don't think there's much customization anyway, because most of the times you have to pick the best power of your build, forcing the choice to 1 or 2 options. Who's forcing you to pick the best power for your build? You don't have to. The builds are optional. They are suggestions. Who's forcing you to pick the best things? Is it the... Maybe you're right, and maybe I've not gotten to, like, because I've not looked at the monsters or the dungeon masters side of this game yet. Maybe, like, the encounters are so fucking hard that if you are not min-maxed optimized in fourth edition, you die immediately. But that comes down to just having a conversation with your GM and saying, I'd rather not play a fucking life or death encounter every single session, please. I'd rather play something where I can pick some roleplay options, and not some roleplay, some character-driven options, and not optimization-driven options. I've heard a lot of people swipe cool bits from 4E to use in 5E, but not the whole system. 100%. Lots of people don't min-max though. Yeah. Can we compare and contrast some monsters? Not in this book. I've only got the player's handbook. I don't have the 4th edition monster manual. Paragon paths. Iron Vanguard. With every attack I make, I grow stronger and more confident. You become a vision of physical perfection, mighty in body and ruthless in your pursuit of victory over every foe. No one defends the front line of battle better than you do, easily taking ground and pushing the enemy to and fro. Enduring Warrior. When you drop an enemy to 0 or fewer, you regain hit points equal to your con mod. Ferocious Reaction. When you are reduced to hit points or fewer, as an immediate interrupt before you fall unconscious, you can spend an action point to take an extra action. In addition, whenever you spend an action point to take an extra action, you can also gain a +4 bonus to all defenses until the start of your next turn. Holy shit. Can that action be to heal yourself? Trample the Fallen. When you push a creature or knock a creature prone, it takes damage equal to your con mod. Damn. Iron Vanguard exploits. Frontline Surge, Inexorable Shift, and Indomitable Strength. Kensai. My weapon and I are as one. You study an ancient form of martial training that makes you one with your chosen weapon, creating a combination of destruction that few foes can long stand against. Kensai Path features. Kensai Control Action. You can spend an action point to reroll one attack roll, damage roll, skill check, or ability check instead of taking an extra action. Kensai Focus. You gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls made with a melee weapon of your choice. So if you take the fighter thing from before, from being level 1 being a fighter, you get a +1 from that. Kensai Focus gives you a +1 again. And then you've got your +1 from being a tiefling and attacking somebody who's bloodied. All of the pluses, all just floating around. Kensai Mastery. You gain a +4 bonus to damage rolls with the same weapon you selected for Kensai Focus. If you ever use a different type of weapon, you lose this benefit and the benefit for Kensai Focus until you take a short rest, during which time you reattune yourself to your chosen weapon with a short meditation. So the weapon gets pissy at you, is what that implies? If your chosen weapon is a longsword and you are disarmed from your longsword and pushed to the ground and somebody's clawing at you, and you whip out a sidearm dagger and just finish them off with a dagger in order to get them off of you so you can go get your longsword. The longsword's like, no! I saw you use that dagger! Why don't you go get comfort by your dagger? And then you have to spend a short rest being like, hey, it's okay. I still love you. You're still my weapon of choice. I just didn't have you. Longsword will remember that, yeah. Sounds like Salazar the Dagsword, yeah. Kensai exploits Master Stroke. I'm good at that. Ultimate Parry and Weapon Soul Dance. Pit Fighter. I fight dirty and I fight to win. You have learned to fight in dungeons and brawling pits, picking up every survival trick along the way. It might not be the prettiest or the most elegant fighting style around, but it gets the job done. Armor optimization. You have learned to make the most of the armor you wear, positioning it to better absorb and deflect blows. You gain a +1 bonus to armor class whenever you wear any kind of armor. Extra damage action. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, you also add 1/2 of your level to the damage dealt by any of your standard actions this turn. Dirty fighting. Using tricks and techniques you've learned in constant battles, you know how to add an extra level of pain to every hit you deliver. Increase the damage you deal when using a weapon by a number equal to your wisdom modifier minimum 1. That's kind of blur. Like, where's like the improvised weapon stuff? Where's the bonuses for using improvised weapons? Pit Fighter exploits. All bets are off. Deadly Payback. And Lion of Battle. And then finally, Swordmaster. My blade is exquisite and deadly, as much a work of art as it is a weapon, and in my hands it is unstoppable. You and your blade are as one. Didn't they say that about the Kensei? My weapon and I are as one, is the exact tagline of the Kensei. You and your blade are as one. This feels different. Feels different to the thing you were setting up before. Good job. You are a master of the sword, able to employ your steel in ways that no lesser warrior can even imagine. Steel defense action. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, you can also get a +4 bonus to armor class and reflex defense until the start of your next turn. Steel grace. When you charge with a light blade or heavy blade that is not a polearm, you can use a containing strike or reaping strike instead of your melee basic attack. And steel blitz. When you score a critical hit with a light blade or heavy blade, you regain a use of the fighter encounter power you've already used in the encounter. Well, that's pretty cool. When you score a critical hit, you get your fighter encounter powers back. So you'd be best action economy wise. You'd be best off using your encounter powers pretty early in the fight before you have more and more chance of getting a critical hit. Otherwise, if you get a crit and you haven't used your encounter powers yet, you'd be like, fuck. Swordmaster exploits: Precision Cut, Fantastic Flourish, and Crescendo Sword. Shawing. Sounds like Thor's hammer. Yeah. Kill someone with chopsticks. Oh wait, a pencil. Go on John Wick on them. Paladins. Do I want to keep going? I'm bored. This is boring me. I'm not going to read the Paladin powers because it's boring me. I'm just going to read the stuff that interests me. And then we're going to skip forwards to the next class. Because the powers are the things that's boring me. There's too many of them. I am the righteous shield of Moradin and a sword in his mighty hand. I fear no evil. Roll, Defender. You are extremely durable with high hit points and the ability to wear the heaviest armor. You can issue bold challenges to foes and compel them to fight you rather than your allies. Power Source, Divine. You're a divine warrior, a crusader, and a protector of your faith. Key abilities, Strength, Charisma, and Wisdom. Armor proficiencies, a whole bunch of shit. Jumping down, blah, blah, blah. Hit points, 15 plus con mod, 6 per level, 10 plus your con mod per day. Healing surges. So basically they're exactly the same as the fighter in terms of their hit points. Whoever has the higher constitution has the higher hit points. But the paladin has 1 extra healing surge per day. You're trained in religion, and then another 3 from the following list: diplomacy, endurance, heal, history, insight, intimidation, and religion. Paladins are indomitable warriors who've pledged their prowess to something greater than themselves. Paladins smite enemies with divine authority, bolster the courage of nearby companions, and radiate as if a beacon of inextinguishable hope. Paladins are transfigured on the field of battle, exemplars of divine ethos in action. To you is given the responsibility to unflinchingly stand before an enemy's charge, smiting them with your sword while protecting your allies with your sacrifice. Where others waver and wonder, your motivation is pure and simple, and your devotion is your strength. Where others scheme and steal, you take the high road, refusing to allow the illusions of temptation to dissuade you from your obligations. Take up your blessed sword and sanctified shield, brave warrior, and charge forward to hallowed glory. Paladins. Creating a paladin. Paladins rely on strength, charisma, and wisdom for most of their key abilities and powers. Constitution is useful as well, although no paladin powers are specifically based on constitution. Paladins start with 2 common builds: Avenging Paladin and Protecting Paladin. Avenging Paladin. You burn with the desire to punish the wicked and smite the unbelievers. In your view, the best way to safeguard your allies is to destroy your enemies with divining power and overwhelming attacks. Choose Strength as your highest ability score since your most damaging attacks are based on Strength. Charisma should be your second best ability score and Wisdom your third. Consider wielding a big 2-handed weapon such as a greatsword or a great axe, and choosing powers that deliver the highest amount of damage. Suggested powers, blah blah blah. Protecting Paladin. You emphasize defense, guarding your allies and healing and bolstering them with a few of your powers. You do not deal as much damage as the Avenging Paladin, but you're better at dealing with a wider array of situations. Your best ability score should be Charisma. Choose Strength for your second best score, because you'll want a few strength-based attacks, and Wisdom as your third base score. The Protecting Paladin works best as a shield-carrying warrior, so you should probably use a heavy shield and a one-handed weapon such as a longsword or a warhammer. Selecting powers that help your allies, along with a few damage-dealing powers for when the need arises. Paladin Overview. Characteristics. Like the fighter, you are extremely durable. You wear the best armor available and your defenses are very high. You can force enemies to fight you rather than your weaker allies by using powers to challenge your enemies. Your ranged attack ability is not very good, but you are very capable in melee. This feels very much the same as fighter so far. This is just fighter that worships a god. Religion. Warriors wielding divine power can be found in the service of any deity, even evil or chaotic ones. However, the majority of paladins serve good or lawful good deities, blah blah blah. Most paladins are humans and dwarves. These races have strong traditions of pious warriors choosing to devote themselves to divine service. Dragonborn and half-elves make good paladins too. Implement. Paladins make use of holy symbols to help challenge and direct their divine powers. Blah blah blah, add in their enhancement, yada yada. Holy Avenger, a special magic weapon, can also be used as an implement for paladin powers, as well as paladin paragon path powers. That's a phrase that they wrote. They actually wrote that in the book. A Holy Avenger, blah blah blah, as well as paladin paragon path powers. These weapons are highly sought after by paladins. Paladin paragon path powers. Paladin Paragon Path Powers! It's like, it seems like a cheesy kids animation, or like Power Rangers or something. Paladin Paragon Path Powers! Now! This is 5 times fast. Paladin Paragon Path Powers, Paladin Paragon Path Powers, Paladin Paragon Path Powers, Paladin Paragon Path Powers, Paladin Path Powers. Nailed it. Paladins and their deities. As fervent crusaders in their chosen cause, paladins must choose a deity. Paladins choose a specific faith to serve, as well as an alignment. You must choose an alignment identical to the alignment of your patron, blah 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 blah. Here's another table of all of the gods again, blah 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 blah. Paladins are not granted their powers from their deity directly, instead through various rites performed when they first become paladins. Most of these rites involve days of prayer, vigils, tests and trials, ritual purification, blah 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 blah. Paladin class features. Your armor and shield and weapon are your most important tools of your trade. In addition, you have the following class features. Channel divinity, like we saw for the clerics. Blah blah blah. Divine challenge. The challenge of a paladin is filled with divine menace. You can use the divine challenge power to mark an enemy of your choice. And then lay on hands. We know this one. Using the lay on hands power, paladins can grant their comrades additional resilience with a touch of their hands and a short prayer, though they must give of their own strength to do so. Ooh, interesting. I want to know how divine lay on hands works. Paladin powers, called prayers. Paladin Paragon Path powers and prayers. You're spitting all over me, man. Of course I am. Good acting is enunciation. When you enunciate, you spit. Name it. Holy rusted metal, Batman. What is it, Robin? This metal, it's all holy and rusted. It's all rusted and full of holes. Pious paladins prefer Paragon Path powers to prayers. Channel divinity option. Divine metal. Your unswerving faith in your deity empowers a nearby creature to resist debilitating affliction. Divine strength. Apply your strength modifier as extra damage on your next attack turn. Divine challenge. Boldly confront a nearby enemy, searing it with divine light if it ignores your challenge. You mark them. Blah blah blah. While it's marked, it takes -2 penalties to blah blah blah. It takes damage if it does blah blah blah. On your turn, you must engage the target you challenged. Blah blah blah. It's just the compelled duel thing, essentially. And then lay on hands. Your divine touch instantly heals wounds. How does it work? You can use this power a number of times per day, equal to your wisdom modifier, but only once per round. You spend a healing surge but regain no hit points. Instead, the target regains hit points as if it had spent a healing surge. You must have at least one healing surge remaining to use this power. This is the one that people were saying, oh, they use their own healing surges to heal other people. It's the Paladin, not the Cleric. You spend your healing surge to heal somebody else. Joey and Friends, that's the one. Peter Piper picked a peck of Paladin past powers and Paragon pathways. Peter Piper picked a peck of Paladin past powers. Blah blah blah. Abilities: Bolstering Strike, Enfeebling Strike, Holy Strike, Valiant Strike, Fearsome Smite, Piercing Smite, Radiant Smite, Shielding Smite, On Pain of Death, Paladin's Judgment, Radiant Delirium, Astral Speech, Martyr's Blessing, Sacred Circle. There's some cool named things here. I don't care what they do. It's far too much to read. Level 29 Daily Prayers, Even Hand of Justice, and Powerful Faith. Bunch of damage and shit. See, Powerful Faith for the level 29 Paladin just makes it even more obvious that the level 29 fighter thing was shit. Level 29 fighter thing was 7 times your weapon damage, and that's it. And if you miss, nothing. This one is 7 times your weapon damage, and you get to make a secondary attack. If you miss, it still does half the damage. And the secondary attack is every enemy within 10 squares of you, and on a hit, they are blinded until your next turn. That is so much stuff at the same level as the fighter was just getting objectively worse than that. Stupid. Stupid design. Level 29. Does 40 go up to level 30? It does, yes. Also, the -2 rule isn't that hard to follow, and I think it's one of the few things that's better than 5e. To each their own. I think it is hard to follow. I think once you've got several -2s all lined up for various different reasons, you're going to forget them. $29 is the cap if this is D&D 4e. This is D&D 4e that we're talking at. And level 30 is the cap, because that's given on the table. Well, actually, level 30 isn't even a cap. Because there are certain things that say in the book, if you get to level 31, blah, 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 blah. So it's obviously possible to get to level 31, or it wouldn't specify it. There was something in the earlier chapters that we read, but last time we did one of these streams. This one. Ability score modifiers. If you're... Oh, no, wait, this is ability score, not... Maybe I'm getting mistaken with levels. Your ability score is not capped to 30 anymore. Your ability score can go above 33. Your levels... Where's the level table? That's 29. The level table goes to level 30. If you get 1,000,000 XP, you get to level 30. Where you get an epic destiny feature and another feat. Paragon Paths, Astral Weapon. With the power of the astral sea flowing through me and my faith as powerful as a weapon, I fight as my god wills. You become a literal weapon for your god, imbued with an extra dose of divine power emanating from the astral sea. As an astral weapon, there are no enemies you won't oppose, no challenge you won't take on, for your faith is strong and your weapon sings with power from on high. When you accept this path, the weapon you wield forevermore glows with the silvery light of astral sea. Champion of Order. The law holds chaos at bay, and I bolster the law with my every action and deed. You become a paragon of order, embracing this concept and fulfilling it with every word and deed. The gods of order look favourably upon you as you champion the cause they promote and the ideals they exemplify, turning back the forces of chaotic evil powers at every opportunity. In the presence of chaotic evil creatures, your weapon glows with radiant light. This says prerequisite paladin class, but it does not say prerequisite not chaotic evil. Because earlier in the paladin thing it said you can be a chaotic evil paladin, they're just pretty rare. So if you are a chaotic evil paladin and you choose champion of order, which you're allowed to because it doesn't say prerequisite not chaotic evil, then your chaotic evil in the presence of chaotic evil creatures, your weapon glows with radiant light. Your weapon would always be glowing with radiant light. And you turn back the forces of chaotic evil powers at every opportunity. So you're constantly just undermining yourself. You become your own worst enemy. Who can relate to that? Could a paladin worship anything, like his faith in his wife or his faith in his kids? You can do it, son. You got this. And he gets power from that. In my games, yes, because that's how paladins work in my games. But in this one, it specifies you have to worship a deity. Hospitaller. I am a healer and a defender, an inspiration to my allies and a fearful visage to my foes. Your spiritual path leads you to specialize in the healing arts. You increase the healing you provide to allies as you become a shining beacon of hope on the battlefield. You embody mercy and care, bringing aid to the wounded and cleansing life to those near death, especially when you turn damage against a foe into healing for a friend. Hospitaler's blessing, action and care. Warding blow, healing font, and life-giving smite. Justiciar, Justiciar, Justica, Justicar, Justiciar, Justiciar. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Justicar, Justicia. I'll go with Justicia. I fight for justice, my faith and my strong arm, defending those in need. You become the embodiment of justice, a champion of righteousness and fairness, at least as viewed from the perspective of your particular faith. You are granted the ability to shelter and protect your allies and others in need, while also receiving powers that help you do the right thing according to the faith you have embraced. And that is the Paladin. We're on to Ranger, page 103.
Hey there, I'm talking to you. You rock. Thank you for watching my stuff. Really appreciate it.